Hello everyone, John Richards here. In this video, we're going to talk about finishing what you start. Man, that is so important. Hey, before we get started, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Make sure you click the bell notification on the side so you get notified of any future videos. Finishing what you start, how important is that? You know, we all have tons of stuff that we're working on, right? We have maybe 20, 30 things. Well, it's impossible to be effective on 20 or 30 things. So what you need to do, the first thing, here's a strategy that works, is do a brain dump, okay? And what a brain dump is, you're going to get everything out of your mind. One of the things it's going to do, it's going to get rid of a lot of the anxiety of all those things you're thinking about. So write them all down. Get them all out of your head. I don't care how big, how small, how much in the future, how near to you they are. Write them all down, okay? Don't worry about priority order right now. Just get them all out on paper. Okay, now the next thing you need to do is you need to identify what are the top three. Okay, the reason for three is something called channel capacity. Your mind can only really handle three things. It's like, I don't know if you've ever heard Tony Robbins say 1, 2, 3, overwhelm. It's because your mind can only really hold three chunks of information at one time. You can only really focus on one. Now, there's science backing this. It's called channel capacity. So you're going to go down this list and you're going to identify what are the top three things, okay? And once you have those set aside, those three set aside, you're going to ask yourself something called a focusing question. It comes from a great book called The One Thing, and it helps you identify what the number one thing is. So if you ask yourself, what's the one thing I can do, such that by doing it, everything else is easier or unnecessary. That's your lead domino. That's the one you need to really work on first. So you identify that, okay? Now, you're going to be able to focus on all three, but you got to do them in priority order. You got to think and act in order of priority. Okay, now once you've done that, once you have that one item done, then you put the other two in order, which is, okay, if you got that done, if everything else, you got that all the way done, which would be second, okay? And you identify that. What's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else is easier or unnecessary? Ask yourself that question every time. Identify number two, now you know what number three is. Okay, now build a plan for each one. So take the first one, that lead domino, that one you identified as number one. What are the steps to get that done? Here's the thing you got to understand. Every outcome, every result is preceded by a process. The process is what actually achieves the outcome or the result, okay? Most people, they get so caught up on the outcome that they don't focus on the process. I can remember Darren Hardy talked about it in an insane productivity program I went through. It's like you got this big spiral staircase, and you got all these stairs, and up at the top is your outcome, or is your result you're looking for. So what are you looking at? You're looking at all these stairs, so you can't really see that outcome, right? And you get all overwhelmed. That's when people get overwhelmed. The thing you got to understand is you can only do one thing at a time. So once you focus on that and you identify the steps, what is the one thing? If you did that, everything else is easier and necessary. Again, the focusing question works. And you identify what's the first thing. That's all you're going to worry about right now. When you get that done, then you do the second thing, and then the third thing. So when you take the first priority, that first project, whatever it is, you identify the steps to get there. And you want to make it simple. You don't want to make some complicated plan of 100 different things, because again, now you've overwhelmed yourself. So try to get it down to what are usually. If you have a project, let's say I want to sponsor a certain amount of people in my network marketing business. It's usually three process goals that'll get me there. Most things have three, maybe four things it'll take to get you there. So really start thinking about what are the steps. 1, 2, 3, 4 result. Okay, and that's the way you should look at this. So you have a result. You know what your outcome is. What you really don't have any control over that. Okay, what you have a control over is the steps, the process, the system, that you have to get there. Identify those. Now, schedule those in your calendar. And again, don't make that overwhelming. You're not going to, okay, what most people do, I'm going to work daylight to dawn to get this done. No, you're not. The average person works 4.5 hours a day, okay? So when you say you're going to work 8 or 10 hours, and you may do that, but really figure out when you start scheduling things, schedule 3 things a day. What you call your three most valuable priorities for that day, which are the steps to hit this outcome, into your calendar. Okay, now once you have those into your calendar, you have that particular result handled. Because if you focus on this process, these actions, the system, it'll get that outcome. Now that one's done, okay? All right? Now take the second thing and do the same thing. You're going to build a plan, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever it is, and then you're going to schedule that, okay? And then take the third one and schedule that. What you'll find is now that's all in your calendar. Here's the thing. All you now have to do now is honor your calendar. Okay, you got to execute. Now, here's where a lot of people get screwed up is they get a little overwhelmed by the outcome and all the things they have to do, but they really don't think about the actions it takes there. And a lot of times it's not a lot, So, finishing what you start is so important. And don't start anything else. Don't let anybody, the thing is, we all get emails of other things that people are doing, okay? Or we get a call, hey, man, you got to look at this. No. It's just like, Richard Branson. There was a guy that wanted Richard Branson to come speak for him. And, so Darren Hardy, again, I went through a program with Darren, so I got to know him in this program. And he talked about, this guy said, Darren knew Richard Branson. He said, hey, could you see if Richard would come and speak for us? We'll pay him I think it was like $100,000. And so Darren said, sure, I know Richard. So he reached out to Darren, and reached out to Richard. And Richard's people responded and said, hey, no, he can't do that. Okay? So the guy says, well, I tell you what, we'll pay him $500,000. So Darren said, okay, let me see what he says. So he reaches out, and Richard's people, responded back, no, he can't do that. The guy said, hey, we'll write him a blank check. We'll send a jet to pick him up. It'll take an hour at most. We'll pay whatever it takes. So Darren reached out a last time, and Richard's people reached back, said, right now, Richard is focused on 3 projects, and that's it. And if these things don't fit in his 3 projects, he just don't entertain it. He doesn't do it. That's a guy that's a billionaire that thinks this way. So when you think about things, like if you're doing quarterly goals or a monthly goal, identify what are the 3 key projects that you need to get done that quarter or that month, and really only focus on that until it's done. That's how you start finishing what you start. Don't start a bunch of stuff and not get it done, because if you don't get the result, you don't get the payday anyway. So, and I'm the same way. I'm notorious for that. I get emails every day, and I have a hard time not looking at it. One of the biggest things I do daily is trying to eliminate those distractions. So when you think about what you need to do, again, so brainstorm what you have to do, write down everything, identify the top 3, build a plan for each one, and schedule it into your calendar. And I think that'll clear this up. Now, once you get those 3 done, guess what? You go back to your list where you've kept in a spiral notebook. I keep it on the back of what's called a 411 for me. Something, again, from the one thing. And I go back, I look, okay, now what's the next thing? I bring it in forward. I'm always focused on 3 things. This month in June, I'm focused on 3 things. For the quarter, I'm focused on 3 things. That way it keeps you from overwhelmed. That way you'll be able to start finishing what you start. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you did, make sure you comment below. Let me know what your thoughts are. Again, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Don't forget, make sure you click that bell notification on the side. Hey, also, there will be a link below in the description to get on my private email list. I got a lot of great content I'm sharing. Hope you have an awesome day today, guys. Go make it a great one. Thank you.